When these altcoins finally launch, we are going to see significant growth, in my opinion. As we get into this video, we're going to take a look at 3 altcoins that have huge promise on the horizon. If you find it useful and informative, hit the like button. Really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap that bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with everything that we do here at 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗀. Right, with all that said, done, and out of the way, let's jump right down into the desktop and take a look at these 3 particular altcoins that I think are going to absolutely pop to the upside once they launch. Okay guys, so today we are talking about the Singularity family, and these are 3 out of a handful that are going to be launching soon. Okay, so obviously here on the charts we have, well, on coin market cap, we have SingularityNET. Now, SingularityNET, for those who are unfamiliar, is basically an artificial intelligence platform, but not just any artificial intelligence platform. They are basically aiming to decentralize AI, basically creating a decentralized artificial intelligence marketplace that anyone can go to and pay for and buy AI services, right? And this is important because not a lot of people actually realize that the kind of artificial intelligence that's currently out there is really kind of centralized. It's kind of in the big corporations like Apple, Google, Microsoft, right? Facebook. And doesn't really get distributed very far, and it's quite expensive to go ahead and actually kind of set things up, create your own algorithms and make them smarter over time, etc. So it tends to have gravitated really heavily towards some really large tech companies. Now, with this being said, the idea of decentralization of artificial intelligence, I think, is an absolute must, and specifically in helping, everyone else who runs businesses all across the globe actually have access to these AI services, I think is very, very important. Of course, Singularity actually goes a little bit further above and beyond just that. Fathered by Dr. 𝗕𝗪𝗪𝗀𝗀, he's working on, or working up towards, how do I put it? It's artificial general intelligence, AGI, hence the token name actually AGI itself, right? So basically artificial general intelligence is that next evolutionary step of AI, right? And it's being worked on by Dr. 𝗕𝗪𝗪𝗀𝗀. We've obviously interviewed him on the channel as well, so definitely worth checking that one out. It's a bit of a mind kind of get your head around it all, but ultimately, I think artificial intelligence is something that is going to play a real big part of the future across many different industries and space, right? So this is a particular project I think is actually very vital, and I do think it's going to do incredibly well when it launches on the Cardano ecosystem. So SingularityNET has actually been around for a little while. It was actually launched over on the Cardano ecosystem in a very similar way, I guess you could say, that VeChain was originally launched on the Ethereum ecosystem. But obviously the confines of Solidity and the scalability issues, the gas fees, etc., make it very, very difficult to make a profitable business model on Ethereum. So as a result, SingularityNET will be one of the first projects to move from Ethereum over to Cardano. We actually caught up with Dr. 𝗕𝗪𝗪𝗀𝗀, he did actually explain to us the differences between writing on Solidity and Haskell, and how, it's actually very easy to write insecure code on Ethereum with Solidity versus how hard it is to write insecure code on Haskell, right? In fact, it's easier to write secure code than insecure code on Haskell, whereas it's the opposite way around, as in it's easier to write insecure code than secure code on Solidity. So really good insights between the two, and as to why he's making the move over from Ethereum to Cardano. So once that actually, that PAB, that Plutus application backend launches from the testnet to the mainnet, this is going to be one of the first projects that we see get minted on the Cardano ecosystem, actually launch on there as well, which is going to be fantastic because it's going to see the artificial intelligence that Dr. 𝗕𝗪𝗪𝗀𝗀 is working on launch also and be readily available on the Cardano ecosystem, which is obviously a pretty big thing considering how big Cardano is going to be in the future, in my opinion. And you can check out some of our Cardano videos if you want to know more about that. But there's the first one, right? But SingularityNET is just one, right? It's kind of the core, but they've actually had a couple of spin-offs. And we're going to get into those in a moment. Before we get into those spin-offs, I do want to kind of highlight that SingularityNET right now is 20 cent. We have actually seen this thing on the AGI front looked like it was going to go much higher. The new token, which is AGIX, which has been minted specifically for the Cardano ecosystem ahead of that launch, you're going to have, I think it's 1 billion AGIX tokens available on Ethereum and 1 billion available on the Cardano ecosystem, staggered out with a distribution over 99 years. So again, you're not just having 2 billion just dropped on the market or anything like that. It's a nice steady flow. And they're also interchangeable 1-for-1 between the ERC20 and obviously the Cardano side of things. So ultimately, you don't really have to worry about that too much. But we were actually looking at pretty good directions before that the old contract was cancelled, and the new contract is here now. And this is showing quite modest kind of price expectations. I think we're going to move significantly higher. I do think actually they're going to have some pretty good growth with AGIX. A $5 range seems pretty plausible considering the magnitude of this project. But again, the data here doesn't really suggest too much because it's a new contract, new data, and we need more time to actually kind of analyze the charts. But going back to some of the really early AGIX videos that we did, $8 came up quite a bit. That was a 4.236 extension that we had on the old AGI contract charts. So definitely worth checking out some of our older AGI videos if you want to see how that pattern was forming from previous bull runs to this bull run and where our expectations are. So right now at 20 cent, this seems like an absolute gem because I do think this is going to multiply significantly, much higher than some of the other projects that we see in the space where, you might only be looking at a 5x. And like I said in previous videos, it's really hard to find a 10x project, right? And this is exactly what you'll be looking at, a 10x project, right? Right now, 20 cent, we can see $2 on the new contract array straight away as well. So some pretty good things to come. Now, obviously, SingularityNET, as I said, is a family, right? There have spin-off companies kind of coming, and one of the most biggest and important ones, which I think a lot of you guys will be familiar with by now, is Singularity DAO. Now, Singularity DAO is about retail investors. It has our personal, I guess, wallets in mind. Basically, this is using the power of artificial intelligence from the SingularityNET ecosystem to basically rebalance portfolios. They call these dynasets. Dynasets are basically a basket full of different cryptocurrencies. So let's hypothetically say you're walking around a supermarket or a grocery store and you're basically putting in various different items. All of a sudden, maybe your baskets become a little bit, weighted one way too high, and maybe there's risks associated with buying too much of one thing. You can take those out of the basket and put something else in, right? And basically, this is what the artificial intelligence is going to be doing on your behalf. You as a retail investor would invest in a dynaset. The dynaset would take your funds and actually reinvest into various different cryptocurrencies, rebalance the basket, and make it the most profitable that an artificial intelligence can do for you. This is the same kind of technology that many of the institutions and hedge funds would be using. They all use artificial intelligence to help them make faster, smarter decisions when it comes to their trading activities. Of course, there are professional traders as well, but ultimately, artificial intelligence has getting a bigger and bigger role in this space. With Singularity DAO, the importance of this project is to level the playing field. It helps you as a retail investor get leveled up in terms of how you can trade. Basically, you invest in a dynaset and let the artificial intelligence make the investments for you, rebalancing your portfolio and making that portfolio as profitable as it possibly can. This is something that we have seen and have tested, and I think ultimately, let's say us, but Singularity DAO have tested over the last few weeks in terms of the profitability line of the dynaset versus Bitcoin's current price. Go check out that blog post if it's of interest to you, and again, you can check out their website at SingularityDAO.ai. Here you'll find out a lot more about it. But obviously currently priced at $1.73. This was actually quite significantly higher. If we come back to the charts here, we actually jump into SDAO. Let me find it here. Here we go. We actually saw this thing all the way up at a high of $6.68. It has pulled back quite significantly. Again, it's a new contract, not a lot of data here, but my expectations with this one are quite significant. I would expect this to pop nicely to the upside. Currently in circulating supply right now is 29 million SDAO. This is 29% of the total supply, which is capped at 100 million. This is a cryptocurrency that is meant for retail investors, and I do think is going to have a really strong position in the market in the future. It might not be the biggest right now, but come 2025, this is going to be a key player when it comes to retail investors and obviously rebalancing and making portfolios more profitable. Okay, so they're a really, really important project, really good to kind of understand and get into. This particular project, I think, is going to have a lot of weight carried with it, and something that I think you want to do a lot more research on. Okay, that then actually leads me on to the last one. Okay, the next project that's a spin-off from Singularity family. This is just launched, and this is a Nunet. Now, Nunet is an interesting project in itself. Currently trading at 12.5 cent. All the circulating data isn't quite where it needs to be just yet. This is all to come in due course. Basically, it's just launched, so do expect some timings to kind of, or some time to allow some new stuff, new data to kind of come in here, get things verified, etc. Now, Nunet is really important because it utilizes mobile computing resources. Okay, so this isn't something new that you've seen before. Basically, there are many projects out there that allow you to basically sell your computing resources, your spare resources, whether that is your RAM, your CPU, your GPU, etc., right? Hard drive space, whatever it might be. There's lots and lots of projects doing this. The differences here, though, is this is actually tagged up and tied to the Singularity ecosystem. Okay, this is important because the resources that would be leveraged here for Nunet are going to be utilized only for artificial intelligence processes, as I understand it. Okay, this is important because some of the other platforms out there, they're not actually, optimized for AI processes, whereas Nunet exactly is. This allows you to have basically millions and millions of devices potentially hooked up to the Nunet ecosystem, and basically you get rewarded for your computing resources, right? So basically you get paid in Nunet tokens, and basically those resources that you provide are then used for artificial intelligence processes, right? So this is absolutely key and important when it comes to scaling out artificial intelligence to, 1 billion or so people, right? And that's exactly the kind of thing that we're talking about here. We're talking about having an artificial intelligence marketplace with SingularityNET. We're then talking about hooking up, Nunet, so basically getting everyone's computing resources powers, or 1 million or so, or 2 million or 1 billion people's resources powers from all your mobile devices, your computers, your idle CPU, GPU, etc., and then basically using that for artificial intelligence processes. This basically means you have scalability that really can be utilized incredibly well for artificial intelligence processes. Now, obviously, you have the Dyna sets and the Singularity DAO for elements of trading, etc. All of this would require computing processing, etc. So, really important project here, and you can kind of see how these three things are tying together very neatly, right? An entire ecosystem of different projects with very specific roles. They are cogs in a machine of a much bigger process. Okay, so it's important that we do dissect it down and we think about all of these. Now, for clarity, I am invested in all three of these projects, as is Chris. And I know Chris did a video recently where he's saying he's never going to sell his 𝗕𝗓, and I can totally understand why. Okay, basically having 𝗕𝗓 and having access to a Dyna set that's completely, artificial intelligence led, rebalancing a basket of assets, basically making sure your portfolio is as profitable as possible, is incredibly important in this space, as is having access to a lot of mobile, whether that is laptop or mobile devices, cell phones, computers, and that resource to be able to actually create swarms of artificial intelligence, little bots out there that are created and getting destroyed and doing lots of different things all around the world. This is a project on an absolute massive scale, and something that I can see being really important for 2025, right? Game price expectations with Nunet, I have absolutely no idea. My price expectations with 𝗕𝗓 and SingularityNET, they're actually pretty reasonable. Like I said, $5 for AGIX seems like a pretty plausible kind of area for it. We can also see 𝗕𝗓 moving up nicely, right? We've said it before, we could see this thing potentially popping up towards $40 or so in the future, considering everything that's kind of going on. Nunet, no idea, but it'd be interesting to see how things really do play out with this one. But yeah, this whole entire ecosystem of the first three projects that have launched, there's more to come. I think that this is going to be something that everyone's going to want to pay attention to. Obviously, all on Cardano's ecosystem and Ethereum's ecosystem, so you do get true usability across the platforms, and I do think this is something that a lot of people are going to want to do a lot more research on. Obviously, I'm not a financial advisor, Chris is not a financial advisor, and it's important that you do research, right? Because I'm just a guy on YouTube telling you that there are these artificial intelligence projects that I think are absolutely fantastic. But don't just take my word for it. Dive into these websites, dive into their Telegram groups, contact the team, ask the community, get into knowing a bit more about what's going on here. And maybe you'll see what I see. And that is that Future is going to have some form of artificial intelligence in this space. And I do think that SingularityNET is going to be at the top of the game when it comes to this AI element. So guys, I am going to leave the video there. If you have found this video useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe? Tap that bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. With this said, done, and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.